You're listening to the 5-Minute Friday podcast episode of The Aligned Self. This is your host, Daniel J-N-O-V. Okay, 5-Minute Friday, a short and concise podcast episode of The Aligned Self, designed to leave you with a question, an idea, a strategy, a tip, a hack, in order to give you greater access to your conscious awareness, evolving your conscious awareness, or give you greater mastery over your mind. Hello, friend, and welcome into this 5-Minute Friday. Today we're going to expand our conversation on mental models, perceptual frames. And the one I'm going to share with you today is probably best used to expand your thinking, expand the possibilities. And you use it as a mental exercise to expand your thinking, to expand what's possible. Now, the title of this episode is The Unlimited Mindset. But frankly, when you think in unlimited ways, we always, in some manner of speaking, have some type of ceiling or limit to our thinking that's naturally in place. And so to think unlimited, it's almost difficult for the mind to expand in that direction. So one question we can use to engineer our way around those natural limitations, those ideas, and many times they're unconscious. There's ideas that we've adopted based on what we've seen in the past and what we've come to accept as normal, so to speak. Even if you don't think that you're normal, none of us are really normal, we tend to adopt a model, a mindset based on other ideas that we've been exposed to. So this question opens things up. So you might be asking, Daniel, what is this question? And it's this. What would happen if I was to take this out to the nth degree? The nth degree is taking it to the maximum, pushing past the boundaries, exponentially expanded. And in your consideration, you want to expand it beyond the probable, beyond the realistic. The nth degree is like the maximum. For instance, if you're planning a Father's Day celebration, sometimes you just get a gift. You might get a tie or underwear or something for your dad, or maybe take him out to dinner. But what if you were to take it out to the nth degree? Could you throw a all-in-out party, like hundreds, thousands of people, every person that he ever met, ever knew, and really take it to the max? Or possibly you could plan a vacation that he's been putting off forever, always putting things aside for the family. For instance, one year for my father, his favorite place on the planet was to go fishing on Isle Royale. Isle Royale is a wilderness national park in the middle of Lake Superior. Well, actually not the middle, but it's the far west end of Lake Superior. So my brothers and I planned, and my cousins planned on taking my father to Isle Royale to go fishing. Now, something came up when I was with FedEx, and I had to work during that time, and I could not go. But from what I hear, my dad had a heck of a time, and something that he would remember the rest of his life. So let's say it's not your father. How about if you're taking your spouse on an anniversary or on a trip? Most people have, they plan it within the context of what they consider to be normal. But what if you were to take it out to the nth degree? Instead of a week, could you plan 3 months or an entire month? Put the kids somewhere where they won't surface for a while, in somebody else's hands where you don't even have to worry about it. And plan to spend a whole month, maybe in one location or maybe 3 or 4 locations. Using this idea of taking it out to the nth degree is a mental experiment. Now, mental experiment is a mind model that Einstein used. He would run a lot of different things as a mental experience. Just play them out in his mind, visualize them. And in the context of this mental experiment, this mind experiment, take off all the limitations, take the governor off, and just consider every possible nth degree possibility. That's a little redundant, but what's the most elaborate, most fantastical thing that you can consider. Again, we're taking it out exponentially to the nth degree, to the edge of the universe. And this is where you get to play in being over the top. And maybe a lot of the ideas that you come up with you won't use. But maybe there's a few in a brainstorming session, again, when we're creating all these possibilities and you're taking it out to the nth degree, there's no judgment around what you're conjuring up. It's just a mental exercise. It's a play with your imagination. And I guarantee that the more you use this, the more excited you can get about your life and the possibilities that lie ahead. Maybe you won't use all the ideas, but I guarantee you're going to come up with one or two that will really set your heart on fire. Now, here's another tact, another way of stating that nth degree, and this comes from Grant Cardone. He really popularized the idea of 10xing it. Whatever your income goals, 10x it. Like if you want $100,000 income, 10x it. What would it be like to create $1 million? What would you have to do to create $1 million income? Not just $1 million net worth, but $1 million income. What might you do? How could you go about it if you were to take it out to the nth degree? And if you're considering an income jump from 1x to 10x, if that's more than feels comfortable to you, what would happen if you were to triple your income, quadruple your income? So you start to play with the numbers and you start to play with what feels doable and even excitable, like what excites you. And then I have one more, and this comes from Peter Diamandis, and it's basically a mental model for him, but it's in the idea of the pushing it out to the nth degree. And he says it like this: what if you were to take your 10-year goals, your 10-year plan, and set out to accomplish it in the next 6 months? Accomplish my 10-year plan in the next 6 months? It begins to boggle the mind. How can I compress 10 years into 6 months? And set that 6-month time frame as a must-do. I'm reminded of this scene from the movie Apollo 13, where the lead engineer brings in these other engineers into a conference room and says that they have a problem on the Apollo 13 module. They're having a problem with their air scrubber, what regenerates the oxygen. And so he dumps out a pile of parts on the conference table and says, you have to come up with a solution, and these are the only parts you have to work with. You either come up with it or they die. Oh, yes, and you have less than 3 hours to get it done. And so by naturally having the amount of materials constrained by necessity, or basically what the facts were, they came up with an innovative and workable solution. Because it was laid out to them, you have no choice, you have to do this. And in the context of taking your 10-year plan and making it happen in the next 6 months, you start to get real imaginative in thinking outside the boundaries, outside the box. When you put constraints on yourself and demand certain activity from yourself, then you get to be very creative and very imaginative, innovative in how you might accomplish this. And maybe you don't accomplish it in 6 months. Maybe it takes you a whole year to accomplish your 10-year plan. You know, there are some goals that are worth it to miss, if only to get close. So the distinction here is taking it out to the nth degree. What would it look like if we were to take it out to the nth degree? And I just happen to think, I'm married to the love of my life. And what would our relationship look like if we were to take it out to the nth degree? Really blow it out of the water. Make it a love story to end all love stories. What if you were a cookie baker, just like Mrs. Fields' chocolate chip cookies? Now, once they expanded into all those different shops, I have to tell you, she was no longer baking the cookies. She still baked them on occasion, but they used her recipe and they duplicated her. She took it out to the nth degree. And one of the strategies she used was she was the master of the sample. I tell you, you sample one of her cookies, you're going to buy another, and probably another and another and a few dozen after that. Auto manufacturer Henry Ford. In the early days, he was the first one to implement his assembly line, where they built the Model T Ford on an assembly line instead of one person or one group of people working on an entire car from beginning to end. They had one person that was specialized, and as the frame moved down the assembly line, one person put on this part, another person put on that part, and of course, Henry Ford was a great mind, a great problem solver, but he knew that he couldn't do it all by himself. So in order to amplify his results, he gave a cash incentive to every one of his workers. If you can save me a dime on the manufacturing process, I'll give you a huge payout. Now, a dime was a lot of money at that time. I mean, the total price of the car was about $800 or $900. And so while he didn't have his eyes in every aspect, he multiplied his effectiveness by engaging the members of the assembly line and basically said, if you can save me a dime on every car, I will pay you money. And typically he would pay out $4,000 to $10,000 bonus checks for those people that would come up with money-saving ideas. And as a consequence, in the 1920s and 30s, Henry Ford dominated the marketplace for the American automobile. So how do you put this in practice for yourself? I've already given you quite a few ideas, but look at the different areas of your life that you want to make an impact on. And you can do this around the areas that you feel have, I guess, a lot of room for opportunity, or you can look at the areas that are already working and ask yourself, it's already working pretty good, but what would it look like? What would happen if we were to take this out to the nth degree? And then let your imagination run wild. Well, that's it for this 5-Minute Friday. This is your friend and host, Daniel Danovi, urging you to follow your bliss, live your life from inner signals, be inner directed as you engage in the epic adventure.